The 1970s were a transformative decade for the American automotive industry. Faced with soaring fuel prices due to the oil crisis, an economic downturn, and a significant shift in consumer preferences, car manufacturers found themselves navigating uncharted territory. The muscle cars and gas guzzlers of the previous decade were no longer in vogue. Instead, consumers sought fuel efficiency, reliability, and affordability. In response, automakers introduced a slew of new models. However, not all of them hit the mark. Today, we'll take a nostalgic yet critical look back at 8 of the least loved cars from the 1970s that struggled to win the hearts of drivers. Whether these vehicles evoke memories from your youth or stories you've heard over the years, let's delve into what made them miss the mark and perhaps gain a newfound appreciation for how far automotive design and engineering have come since then. But stay tuned, because you might just find out that one of these cars wasn't all bad after all. Number 8. The AMC Gremlin. First up on our list is the AMC Gremlin, introduced on April Fool's Day in 1970, a date that, in hindsight, seems fitting given the car's reception. As one of America's first attempts at a subcompact vehicle, the Gremlin was designed to compete with the growing number of imports from brands like Volkswagen and Toyota. American Motors Corporation, AMC, aimed to offer an economical and compact alternative to the larger cars dominating U.S. roads. The Gremlin's design was, to put it mildly, unconventional. With a long hood and an abrupt truncated rear end, it looked as if a conventional car had been sliced in half. This unusual styling earned it a reputation as one of the most peculiar and to some unattractive cars of the decade. Under the hood, the 1974 Gremlin came standard with a 3.8-liter inline-six engine producing around 100 horsepower. Contrary to some misconceptions, the Gremlin did not offer a 2.0-liter engine until later years, and it was not sourced from Volkswagen. Optional engines included larger 4.2-liter inline-six engines and even a 5.0-liter V8 for those craving more power. However, the Gremlin's performance was underwhelming, especially considering its poor aerodynamics and uneven weight distribution. The car's boxy shape and abrupt rear end didn't just affect its looks. They also hampered fuel efficiency, a critical factor during the oil crisis that gripped the nation. Inside, the Gremlin didn't fare much better. The interior was sparse and utilitarian, featuring cheap materials and minimal amenities. Plastic components were prone to rattling and cracking, and the lack of comfort made long drives less than enjoyable. The rear seating area was cramped, making it impractical for families or anyone needing extra space. While AMC attempted to market the Gremlin as a quirky, fun alternative to imports, consumers often found it lacking in both style and substance. The car was frequently the butt of jokes and became a symbol of the struggles American automakers faced in adapting to new market demands. Yet, despite its flaws, the Gremlin has achieved a certain cult status among car enthusiasts today. Some appreciate its unique place in automotive history and have even restored these oddball cars to their former glory. Its distinctive look makes it a head-turner at car shows, and for some, it's a nostalgic reminder of a bygone era. Could it be that the Gremlin was simply ahead of its time, or was it a misstep best left in the past? Coming up next, we'll delve into a car whose safety issues not only made it infamous, but also led to one of the most significant corporate scandals in automotive history, a tale that shook the entire industry to its core. Number 7. The Ford Pinto. No discussion of 1970s cars would be complete without mentioning the Ford Pinto, a vehicle that has become synonymous with corporate negligence and one of the most infamous safety scandals in automotive history. Launched in 1971, the Pinto was Ford's answer to the increasing popularity of small, economical cars, like the Volkswagen Beetle and Toyota Corolla. Initially, the Pinto was a commercial success, with sales exceeding expectations. However, it soon became infamous for reasons no manufacturer would ever want associated with their brand. The Pinto's most notorious flaw was its fuel tank design. Positioned between the rear bumper and the rear axle, the fuel tank was vulnerable in rear-end collisions. In the event of such an impact, the tank could rupture and leak fuel, leading to catastrophic fires or explosions. To make matters worse, protruding bolts from the differential could puncture the tank upon collision, significantly increasing the risk. The real scandal emerged when it was revealed that Ford was aware of this design flaw but chose not to address it. Internal cost-benefit analyses showed that it would be cheaper to settle potential lawsuits from accidents than to recall the cars and fix the issue, a decision that, when made public, severely damaged the company's reputation. Beyond its infamous safety issues, the Pinto was also criticized for its lackluster performance and build quality. The base model came with a modest 1.6-liter inline-4 engine producing about 75 horsepower. While adequate for city driving, it was sluggish on the highway and struggled with acceleration, especially when compared to its foreign competitors. The interior was Spartan, featuring cheap materials, uncomfortable seats, and minimal conveniences. Basic amenities like air conditioning and power steering were optional extras, making the car feel stripped down unless additional money was spent. The Pinto's legacy is a stark reminder of what can happen when corporate negligence overrides consumer safety. The ensuing lawsuits and negative publicity led to a sharp decline in sales. In 1978, after numerous accidents and mounting public pressure, Ford finally issued a recall for 1.5 million Pintos to address the fuel tank issue. However, the damage to Ford's reputation was already done. The Pinto remains a textbook case in business ethics classes to this day and serves as a cautionary tale about the dire consequences of putting profits over people. But if you think that's the worst of it, wait until you hear about a car that not only rusted away, but also played a role in pushing its manufacturer to the brink of collapse. Number 6. The Dodge Aspen. Introduced in 1976, the Dodge Aspen was Dodge's attempt to replace the aging Dart and compete in the midsize car market. On paper, the Aspen seemed promising. It offered various body styles, including a coupe, sedan, and station wagon, and even won Motor Trend's Car of the Year award upon its release. The car was marketed as a reliable, stylish, and practical vehicle that could meet the needs of the modern American family. However, the Aspen quickly became notorious for severe rust problems and mechanical failures, tarnishing both its reputation and that of its manufacturer. The Aspen's design was conservative, featuring the boxy shape typical of American cars in the mid-1970s. While initially modern-looking, the design quickly became dated as automotive styling evolved toward more aerodynamic shape. The car's aesthetics were unremarkable, lacking the flair to make it stand out in a crowded market. But the real issues lay beneath the surface. The Aspen was plagued by poor quality control during its manufacturing process. Owners reported uneven body panels, misaligned doors, subpar paint jobs, and even instances of parts being improperly installed at the factory. Mechanically, the Aspen suffered from a host of issues. Engine troubles were common, including frequent stalling, difficulty starting, and overheating. The suspension system was prone to premature wear and failure, leading to a rough and noisy ride. The car's brakes were also a point of concern, with some owners reporting brake failure or diminished stopping power. Perhaps the most significant downfall of the Aspen was its notorious rust problems. Inadequate rust-proofing and low-quality materials meant that fenders, doors, and even structural elements corroded rapidly, sometimes within just a couple of years. This wasn't merely a cosmetic issue. In severe cases, the rust compromised the vehicle's structural integrity, making it unsafe to drive. These myriad issues couldn't have come at a worse time for Chrysler, Dodge's parent company, which was already facing significant financial difficulties due to rising oil prices and increased competition from foreign automakers. The Aspen shortcomings contributed to Chrysler's near bankruptcy and subsequent government bailout in 1979. While the Aspen had initial sales success, its long-term legacy is that of a cautionary tale about the importance of quality control and the perils of cutting corners to save costs. But the Aspen wasn't alone in disappointing consumers during this challenging era. Up next is a car that overpromised and underdelivered, leaving many buyers wondering if they should have opted for one of those increasingly popular imports instead. Number 5. The Ford Maverick. The Ford Maverick made its debut in 1969 as an affordable compact car, aiming to provide a practical alternative to the larger, less fuel-efficient sedans that dominated Ford's lineup. Initially, the Maverick enjoyed popularity due to its low price and decent fuel economy, factors that appealed to consumers during a time of economic uncertainty and rising fuel costs. However, by 1975, the Maverick had become outdated and uninspiring. Despite its early success, it became evident that Ford had done little to modernize the model or keep up with changing consumer expectations. Stylistically, the Maverick was unremarkable. Its conservative design featured a simple, elongated body with minimal decorative elements. While this might have been acceptable in the late 1960s, by the mid-1970s, automotive design was moving toward more aerodynamic and visually engaging styles. The Maverick's lack of aesthetic appeal made it less competitive, especially as other manufacturers began to offer more stylish alternatives. The interior was equally Spartan, featuring hard plastics, minimal instrumentation, and few comfort features. The seats lacked support, and the cabin was noisy due to poor sound insulation. While the car was intended to be budget-friendly, the lack of amenities left many buyers feeling they were sacrificing too much for the sake of affordability. Competitors were beginning to offer more features as standard, making the Maverick seem even more bare bones by comparison. Under the hood, the Maverick offered a range of engines, from a 3.3-liter inline-six to a 5.0-liter V8. However, due to emissions regulations and outdated technology, even the V8 struggled to deliver satisfactory performance. The engines were notorious for poor fuel economy, a significant drawback during the oil crisis when consumers were increasingly fuel conscious. Mechanical issues were also prevalent, including frequent brake failures, stalling problems, and unreliable transmissions. Rust was another common complaint among Maverick owners. Poor quality materials and inadequate rust-proofing led to significant corrosion, particularly in the undercarriage and around the wheel wells. This not only affected the car's appearance, but also its structural integrity over time. As imports like the Toyota Corolla and Honda Civic began to offer better reliability, fuel economy, and modern features at competitive prices, the Maverick couldn't keep up. Ford eventually replaced the Maverick with more contemporary models like the Fairmont, but by then, the damage to the Maverick's reputation and to Ford's standing among consumers seeking compact cars was already done. But if you think that's the end of outdated designs and unmet expectations, wait until you hear about a so-called luxury car that was anything but luxurious. Number 4, the Chrysler LeBaron Coupe. In 1977, Chrysler introduced the LeBaron Coupe, aiming to offer a personal luxury car that combines style, comfort, and performance at an affordable price point. The LeBaron was intended to compete with other personal luxury vehicles of the time, such as the Buick Regal and Ford Thunderbird. Unfortunately, the LeBaron fell short on all counts, failing to deliver on its promises and leaving many buyers disillusioned. The LeBaron's exterior featured a boxy design with padded vinyl roofs, landau bars, and folk wood trim styling cues that were meant to evoke a sense of luxury, but instead appeared dated and artificial. The use of opera windows and excessive chrome accents made the car seem as though it was trying too hard to appear upscale without actually offering genuine luxury features. Compared to its competitors, the LeBaron lacked the refined aesthetics and cohesive design language that made other cars in the segment more appealing. Inside, the LeBaron didn't fare any better. The cabin was filled with low-quality materials that wore out quickly. Seats were upholstered in thin fabrics or vinyl that cracked and faded with minimal use. Plastic components on the dashboard and door panels were prone to cracking and rattling. Comfort features like power windows, air conditioning, and even radios were often optional extras rather than standard equipment. Even when these features were included, they were prone to malfunctioning due to subpar electrical components. Performance was another weak point for the LeBaron. Despite offering a range of engines, including a 3.7-liter inline-six and optional V8, the car struggled with poor acceleration and inefficient fuel consumption. The engines were hampered by emissions regulations and outdated technology, resulting in lackluster performance. Mechanical issues were common, ranging from transmission failures to persistent engine problems, like overheating and oil leaks. The car's handling was also criticized for being sloppy and unresponsive, making the driving experience less than enjoyable. The LeBaron's shortcomings couldn't have come at a worse time for Chrysler. The company was facing significant financial woes, partly due to the economic downturn and increased competition from foreign automakers offering better-built, more reliable cars. The failure of the LeBaron only added to Chrysler's struggles, contributing to a tarnished brand image and declining consumer confidence. While Chrysler would eventually recover, thanks in part to the success of the K-car platform and minivans in the 1980s, the LeBaron Coupe remains a reminder of a challenging period in the company's history. It serves as an example of how cost-cutting measures and a lack of innovation can undermine a product's potential. But could there be a silver lining in this tale of missed opportunities and disappointments? Perhaps. Next, we'll shift gears to a British car that promised luxury and performance, but ended up delivering more headaches than joy to its owners. Number 3. The Triumph Stag. The Triumph Stag, introduced in 1970 by British Leyland, was envisioned as a luxurious grand tourer that blended performance with comfort and style. Designed by the renowned Italian stylist Giovanni Michelotti, the Stag featured elegant lines, a distinctive roll bar, and the option of both hardtop and soft-top configurations. On paper, it seemed like the perfect blend of European sophistication and driving pleasure. However, beneath its attractive exterior lay a multitude of problems that would ultimately tarnish its legacy and contribute to the decline of the British automotive industry. Central to the Stag's issues was its 3.0-liter V8 engine, developed in-house by Triumph. The engine was rushed into production without adequate testing, leading to numerous mechanical failures. Overheating was a chronic problem due to a poorly designed cooling system that couldn't cope with the engine's heat output. The use of incompatible metals, aluminum cylinder heads on a cast iron block, led to differential thermal expansion rates, causing warping and head gasket failures. Timing chain issues were also common, often resulting in catastrophic engine failure if not addressed promptly. Owners often faced expensive and frequent repairs, and finding mechanics familiar with the Stag's quirks was a challenge, especially outside the United Kingdom. The car's reputation for unreliability was further exacerbated by poor build quality. Electrical issues plagued the vehicle, with malfunctioning gauges, lights, and ignition systems being common complaints. The Stag was also notorious for rust, particularly in the floor pans, door sills, and wheel arches due to inadequate rust-proofing measures. Performance was underwhelming given the car's grand touring aspirations. The V8 engine, when it worked, produced around 145 horsepower, which was modest compared to competitors like the Mercedes-Benz SL or the Jaguar E-Type. The car's weight and less than stellar power output resulted in mediocre acceleration and top speed figures. Handling was also compromised by the car's heavy front end and the lack of structural rigidity when driven with the roof off, a significant drawback for a convertible intended to offer an exhilarating open-air experience. These reliability issues severely impacted the Stag's reputation, particularly in the crucial U.S. market, where it struggled to find a foothold amid increasing competition from Japanese and German automakers. Sales were disappointing, and the car became emblematic of the wider problems facing the British automotive industry at the time, including labor disputes, financial mismanagement, and a failure to innovate. Despite its troubled past, the Triumph Stag has gained a cult following among enthusiasts who appreciate its design and the potential it had. Many have undertaken restorations, often replacing the problematic engine with more reliable alternatives like the Rover V8 or even modern engines. For these enthusiasts, the Stag represents a piece of automotive history worth preserving. But as we look back, it's clear that even the most stylish cars can falter without solid engineering and quality control. Speaking of which, our next car was supposed to herald a new era for its manufacturer, but ended up doing quite the opposite, becoming a symbol of lost consumer trust. Number 2. The Chevrolet Citation. In 1980, General Motors introduced the Chevrolet Citation, its first front-wheel drive compact car, aiming to compete with the growing popularity of imports like the Honda Accord and Toyota Corolla. The Citation was part of GM's X-Body platform and was intended to showcase the company's ability to innovate and adapt to changing market demands. Initially, the Citation was well received, praised for its spacious interior, fuel efficiency, and modern design. It even won Motor Trend's Car of the Year award in its debut year. However, it didn't take long for the car's numerous shortcomings to surface, turning what was supposed to be a triumph into a public relations nightmare. The Citation was plagued by mechanical issues that severely undermined its appeal. One of the most significant problems was severe torque steer, a condition where the car would pull to one side under heavy acceleration due to uneven power distribution to the front wheels. This made the car unpredictable and, at times, dangerous to drive, particularly for those unaccustomed to front-wheel drive dynamics. Brake problems were also common, with inadequate rear brakes leading to long stopping distances and a higher risk of accidents. The car's engines, a 2.5-liter inline-4 known as the Iron Duke, and an optional 2.8-liter V6 were noisy, unrefined, and suffered from frequent reliability issues. The V6, in particular, was prone to overheating and oil leaks. Transmission problems added to the woes, with both the manual and automatic gearboxes experiencing issues like rough shifting and premature failure. Quality control was another significant problem. The Citation was subject to numerous recalls, including over 1 million units, to address faulty brakes, defective steering components, and suspension issues that could lead to loss of control. Interior materials were cheap, and build quality was subpar, with parts prone to breaking, malfunctioning, or simply falling off. Owners reported rattling dashboards, peeling trim, and seats that wore out quickly. These issues severely damaged General Motors' reputation at a time when the company was already facing stiff competition for more reliable imports. The Citation became a symbol of the declining quality of American automobiles in the eyes of consumers. Sales plummeted after the initial enthusiasm waned, and the car's resale value dropped significantly due to its tarnished reputation. While GM attempted to rectify the problems with subsequent models and facelifts, the damage was done. The Citation was discontinued in 1985, replaced by models that aimed to win back consumer trust. However, the car remains a stark reminder of the importance of quality and reliability in maintaining consumer confidence. But before we wrap up, there's one more car on our list, a vehicle that aimed to be the affordable, practical choice for American families, but ended up being a lesson in how not to build a car. Number 1. The Dodge Omni. Rounding out our list is the Dodge Omni. Introduced in 1978 as Chrysler's answer to the demand for compact, fuel-efficient cars amid the oil crisis and growing competition from foreign automakers. Based on the European Simca Horizon, the Omni was one of the first American-built front-wheel drive hatchbacks. It was designed to offer practicality and affordability, appealing to budget-conscious consumers. While it initially sold well due to its low price and decent fuel economy, the 1984 model highlighted the car's numerous flaws and ultimately contributed to its decline. The Omni's design was boxy and utilitarian, lacking any real aesthetic appeal or innovation. Its exterior was plain, with minimal styling cues to set it apart from competitors. The interior was equally uninspired, featuring hard plastics, uncomfortable seating, and minimal comfort features. The use of cheap materials was evident throughout the cabin, leading to a lackluster driving experience that left much to be desired. Under the hood, the Omni was powered by either a 1.6-liter inline-4 engine or a 2.2-liter Chrysler engine, both of which were underpowered and unrefined. The smaller engine produced around 65 horsepower, resulting in sluggish acceleration and poor performance, especially when the car was fully loaded. The engines were also noisy and prone to vibrations, making for an unpleasant driving experience. Fuel economy was acceptable but not exceptional, especially as competitors began to offer more efficient and powerful engines. Mechanical reliability was a significant issue for the Omni. The car was notorious for transmission failures, with both manual and automatic gearboxes experiencing problems like slipping, rough shifting, and premature wear. Electrical problems were also common, including issues with the ignition system, lighting, and dashboard instruments. Rust was a pervasive problem, particularly in areas with harsh winters. Poor rust-proofing and low-quality paint meant that the car's body panels and undercarriage were susceptible to corrosion, often leading to structural issues. Build quality was poor across the board. Owners reported misaligned panels, doors that didn't close properly, and components that felt flimsy or cheap. The car's suspension was inadequate, resulting in a rough ride and poor handling characteristics. Safety features were minimal, and the Omni performed poorly in crash tests compared to its contemporaries. These issues eroded consumer confidence in the Omni and, by extension, in Chrysler as a whole. While the company did eventually turn things around with the introduction of more successful models like the K-Car and the minivan, the Omni remains a reminder of the challenges American automakers faced in producing reliable, competitive compact cars during this era. As we reflect on these 8 vehicles, it's clear that the 1970s were a challenging time for the automotive industry. Economic pressures, changing consumer demands, and stiff competition required innovation and adaptability qualities that these cars, unfortunately, lacked. They serve as important lessons in the importance of quality control, understanding market trends, and the risks of cutting corners in manufacturing. But perhaps there's something to learn from these missteps that can inform the future of automotive design and engineering. Conclusion. Looking back, These 8 cars represent more than just mechanical failures or design missteps. They offer valuable lessons in the importance of quality, innovation, and attentiveness to consumer needs. For many of us who lived through the 1970s, these vehicles may evoke a mix of nostalgia and frustration. Perhaps you remember seeing them on the roads, hearing stories from friends and family, or maybe you even owned one yourself, experiencing firsthand the challenges they presented. Today's automotive landscape is vastly different. Advancements in technology have led to safer, more efficient, and more reliable vehicles. Manufacturers have learned sometimes the hard way that cutting corners rarely pays off in the long run. Consumer expectations have risen, and the competition is fiercer than ever, driving continuous improvement in design, engineering, and quality control. Yet, it's worth remembering where we've been to appreciate how far we've come. These cars serve as reminders of the challenges faced and the progress made. They highlight the importance of listening to consumers, investing in research and development, and never compromising on safety and quality. We'd love to hear your stories. Did you or someone you know own one of these cars? What was your experience like? Were there any redeeming qualities that made the ownership worthwhile, or was it a struggle from start to finish? Share your memories and thoughts in the comments below. Your personal insights add depth to the historical narrative and help us all understand the impact these vehicles had on everyday lives. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to subscribe for more automotive histories and insights. We'll continue to explore the cars that have shaped our world for better or worse, and the lessons they've taught us along the way. After all, understanding the past not only satisfies our nostalgia, but also helps us strive toward a better future. Thank you for joining us on this journey through automotive history. Stay tuned for more fascinating stories, insights, and discussions about the cars that have left an indelible mark on our lives and our roads. And our roads. And our roads.